at LiamPicksFights. And the reason being is because earlier today I tweeted out, when I need a win, I call Big Mouth, right? I call this guy Kevin Holland, and that's for and against, right? I've faded him. My biggest win ever in my life, I think, in terms of odds on a single bet, plus 2,900. Derek Brunson to win by sub against Darren Till. Why did I bet that bet? Because he locked Kevin Holland when I had him, Derek Brunson by sub at plus 1,800 or whatever it was. When he locked Kevin Holland in a head and arm choke for 2 minutes, and this guy, Kevin Holland, didn't tap, I said, all right, I'm going to run it again. I'm going to go back to the well with our guy DB by sub. But it shows you that this guy, Kevin Holland, he's not an easy guy to put away. We saw him kind of quit out a little bit in that Wonder Boy fight, but that was when he had a broken hand. It's in the 4th round, and it's against a guy who was really piecing him up. I mean, Kevin absorbed a ton of damage in that fight. Make no mistake about it. Wonder Boy beat his ass. The Ponzinibbio fight was a little bit more competitive than it should have been, but ultimately Kevin got the right result there in the end. I called the Darce choke. I called the submission round 1 for Kevin Holland in that Michael Chiesa fight. Chiesa's a little bit of a self-immolator. Kevin Holland, one of the best front headlocks in the welterweight division. So for me, that just felt like a really gimme spot. Chiesa's not very active either. The Chimaev fight, I didn't like how that whole situation came together. It was all very weird, but he went out there and he scrambled okay, but he just didn't have the speed. He didn't have the physicality, especially to deal with that kind of scrambling pace from a guy like Chimaev. Then you go back to the Means fight. The Means fight was competitive in round 1, on the feet. But then when he took it to the ground, it was no longer competitive. The Alex Oliveira fight, he was in some dangerous spots. Alex Oliveira had his back, but he was able to rally back, get the finish, cash me a nice ITD there from Kevin Holland. All the way back to the Kyle Dawkins fight. This is the last one I'll give you the betting updates on. But Kyle Dawkins, I had him ITD there, guys. And if you guys remember, Kyle Dawkins, basically Kevin got rocked by a head clash. Then he jumps on his back. He submits him. And of course, I didn't end up getting $1 from that, voided out the parlays, all that stuff. So you guys know how that goes. But in any case, Kevin Holland's been very good to me. Cash me the sub prop against Tim Means. Cash me the ITD against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. He's done the right thing by me. Jack Della Maddalena tried to fade him a little bit over his run, right? Not crazy, right? I said that Basil Hafez was live, and I didn't bet him. I said that I thought he was probably going to. I think I picked Della to beat Randy Brown. I'd have to double check that. Danny Roberts, I know I picked him there. I picked Jack Della against Ramazan Emeev as well, and Pete Rodriguez. But back against Ange Lusa, I did bet Ange Lusa there as a plus 130 underdog in that spot. And I just feel like when I look back at that, Ange Lusa got takedowns. He got to that deep head and arm position, right? Kind of like what I was describing with Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland. It was the same thing, but this guy shows he's tough. He's not going to give up easy either. And for me, Kevin's biggest advantage in this fight has to be on the mat. Kevin's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Travis Lutter. He's got good submissions. He's got long limbs. He's got awkward, tricky ability to grab a hold of submissions. People forget as well that he almost submitted Brendan Allen back in the day. He took his back. He had good situations there. He showed himself to be a very confident fighter. And Mr. D is pointing out, JDM had me sweating versus Basel. He jumped the gilly 3 times. Yeah, and I think that Kevin Holland, he is one of these guys, kind of like a Sean Strickland. He's had a ton of fights. He's beaten some good guys. He's clearly got skill, but is he going to fight the smartest? Is he going to put it all together? Is he going to show up on the night with a good game plan? These are some questions you have to really ask. And there it is from my guy, JWB, Just Win Baby, says, Kevin, I won't try and wrestle Wonder Boy Holland. Yeah, man. I think I advocated a small poke on Holland by sub against Wonder Boy. And it made me sick because you look back, I don't even remember if I bet it or not, but just Kevin Holland had him on the ground and just let him stand back up like several times, more than one occasion in the fight. That's not good fight IQ. That's not a guy that's showing that he always wants to go out there and put forward his best foot for a win. And Kevin's talked about before, he likes the money, he likes the prizes, he likes winning if he can, but he likes going out there to scrap and compete, and I think a guy like Jack Della is a little bit more calculated, a little bit more thoughtful sometimes with his approach. Jack does a ton of damage standing. Kevin's got one of the best chins that I've seen, in the UFC. He's a very durable guy, hard to put away. But that's going to start slipping, especially when you start getting hit this frequently, especially when you're cutting routinely to 170 pounds. Kevin Holland, 1 knockout loss in the UFC, 2 submission losses in the UFC in 18 fights. He's put together a ton of fights. He's had a lot of experience in the octagon, and he's going for 3 straight wins here against Jack Della Maddalena. But on the other side here, Jack Della is going for his 6th straight UFC win, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, if you include the Contender Series. So Jack Della is, a very good guy on the come up right now. Here's the truth of the matter, right? I think the one thing that might be going overlooked in this fight, what would happen if Kevin Holland fought Basil Hafez? Because I think a lot of people would assume Kevin Holland would just smoke him. And I think that if Basil Hafez got Kevin to the ground, he could potentially just lay on him, dominate him physically on the mat. I don't know that for sure, but look at Basil Hafez, guys. He's no punk. He's a very strong guy, very strong physically. And he also has good wrestling and good jiu-jitsu. And a guy like Kevin Holland, he's getting better with his wrestling defense. It's still not there. It's still not fully there. I think part of it's a physicality problem for Kevin at times. I don't think that he likes having guys that are big and strong grabbing a hold of him. The Chimaev fight kind of showed that, in the early going, he just tried to get away. And the exchange quickly wore on him, mentally and physically. So for me, Kevin's got a chance to win this fight. I certainly think he's alive. But I just feel like Jack Della is a more dangerous guy while the fight is standing by a touch, not by a lot, but by a touch. I feel like he's probably a guy who's a little bit smarter with the fight IQ right now. Let's look at a couple things here from a measurable standpoint. So number one, Jack Della is the younger fighter here by 3 years, 27 against a 30-year-old here in Kevin Holland. Kevin routinely is going to be the much larger fighter, especially in this welterweight division. He was a fine size middleweight down at 170 pounds. He's got an 81-inch reach, 6'3", so huge frame for this division. My guy Pepe says he does think Kevin would beat Hafez easily. Interesting. I think he certainly could, but I don't think that would be an ideal matchup for him, honestly. I do think he could get sat on his ass there several times by Hafez. So I guess it would be a question of, can Hafez keep him on the mat and avoid some of that damage coming back? Because Kevin is dangerous from his back too, in ways that people don't talk about. He knocked out Jacare Souza with strikes from his back. I think this is a good point from Cheeky Elbow. Kevin, a little bit of an entertainer. JDM, a little bit more of a killer. That's a fair shout. Kevin is elusive, but the body doesn't move. JDM will land hard and often. I don't hate that either. Kevin with questionable fight IQ might be inclined to put on a show for Mexican Independence Day. I mean, yeah, guys, like that Kevin Holland and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight is pretty illustrative. He went out there. He's friendly with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as well. That's the other thing. They did a commercial together. They're boys. But I didn't like that. That just seemed to me like Kevin was a little bit too happy to go along and get along a little bit. And, he's a fun guy, great fighter, wish him the best. We always love to call Big Mouth on this show, but I don't know. I just don't have a great feeling about this one for Kevin. And it seems like a lot of people are coming in pretty bullish on the Kevin side. And I get that. But for me, I'm not feeling that way right off the rip. This opened a -115. It has gone all over the place. JDM was available as high as +105, +109, +115. And now he's all the way down at -152 over at Bet Online and a bunch of other contemporary sports books around -140 or so. So a lot of interesting notes on this fight. Shout out to our guy Just Win. Says Kevin can beat nails these days, not guys who won't F off. Holland made bank. He's half into this. Yeah, that would make sense to me as well. That would make sense to me as well. Kevin is a guy who seems like he's mostly about the money, not about the titles. No, don't blame him either. It's his job. So shout out to him. Andrew Holland, no relation, by the way. Shout out to you, Andrew. Thanks for contributing your thoughts, and we will not accuse you of being related to our guy, Kevin Holland. 35 people rocking with us live. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you for everybody dropping sharp contributions in the chat. We will continue to address those as